It's a common misconception that in order to accomplish more, you just need to continue to do more. Um, I think in conversation, we probably say, well, there's probably, you probably get to a point where with diminishing returns, right? But then in our own lives and our own processes for whatever it is that we're doing, we tend to think it's all about more, 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 more. Whether we're talking about, in fitness, more workouts, being more dialed in with the eating, more intensity. With work, it's more productivity, literally checking more boxes in some areas. But here's the thing: it's not about continually more effort in the moment. What it's about is this sustainable? Can you carry on this momentum with the things that you control? Because if you build something with consistency and sustainability in mind over the course of time, your actions and efforts are going to build more momentum, and you're going to get and maintain your results instead of starting, stopping, and restarting again. Now, this is a conversation in fitness, but I can tell you, for a lot of the folks that work online, whether you're part of an online team or you're running an online business, and something you hear a lot is scalability, scalability. It's got to scale. It's got to scale. And the problem that a lot of people run into, and I've run into this personally before, is that a lot of times when you're trying to scale, you continue to keep yourself there as the bottleneck. Now, there's a couple of ways I think of approaching this when it comes to talking about the business sense. You can get more people, and you absolutely, depending on if you're really wanting to scale something beyond yourself, you want to delegate things to other people. If you're wanting something that is just for yourself, and this is where it can go into work, but it can go into personal goals, and even your when you're talking about the connections and relationships that you have, you want something that you want to consistently be able to show up for the things that you're doing, and that isn't about doing more. That is figuring out what a reasonable pace looks like for you. Now, within your level fitness, this reasonable pace is all about operating from a calm headspace and moving at a deliberate pace. So the actions and efforts to people outside of your head, your own thoughts, your own mind, might be like, man, this person's going at breakneck speed. But in your head, everything's going slow. You're able to navigate. You're not overextending yourself. And I think there's a lot of people that don't figure this out in their life ever. They do continue to try to push the envelope, push, 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 and burn themselves out probably multiple times. And I mentioned that some of this is a lot of this is stuff that I have to work through and figure out, and I burned myself out a number of times, personally, professionally, all of it. But I think what I have learned is that, again, if you keep that internal pace and that internal calmness in mind and moving at a deliberate pace in mind, and that's always like, you don't go too far above or below that, but you find structures that help you manage your output and exceed your output. And I'll tell you, in today's world, it's not strictly about automation. Again, in the online space, there's a lot of automation. There's a lot of, let's use artificial intelligence to scale things. But if you're just scaling for the sake of scaling, which is what I think a lot of people do, because again, they're thinking, I got to do more, got to more, got to scale, 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 scale. But again, scaling isn't just about more. Scaling is putting something together where you can amplify the work that you're doing, which isn't always doing more. Sometimes it is, but you can put it together in a system and structure that doesn't overextend you. And it takes a lot of nuance. It takes a lot of trial and error. And you've got to be really connected to yourself. Again, we talk about being connected to yourself a lot in health and fitness, but that it does transfer into other areas of life. This is an example of that. So if you're connected to yourself and you're really focusing on that calm headspace and moving at that deliberate pace, um, you can you can really you can grow something very sustainable within your team or within yourself as an individual. And again, I know I'm talking about fitness, I'm talking about work, but I'm talking about in your personal life too. If you feel like with your life you are overextended, you're busting at the seams, and a lot of people will tell you, well, that's just what life is. No, that's you looking at how most people handle life and just accepting that that's the way it's going to be. So there are other ways. And there are a lot of, again, you have your roles, you have your responsibilities, but there's a lot of stuff within the structure of your own life that you can set up around having a calm headspace and moving at a deliberate pace. And the more you do that, the more you'll be able to slow down enough to where internally you can actually process and think about what's going on and then make the choice that you're going to make moving forward. Because if you're trying to be productive or if you're trying to move things along personally, professionally, health and fitness or otherwise, you're going to be constantly making decisions, and you want to have the mental stamina to do that. And a lot of people think that eventually if you just push, eventually your mind's going to catch up. And again, this is one of those things where your actions and efforts, you only have 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. So eventually that stuff catches up to you. It's not about just continuing to never endingly, push forth the action. And then you look at, like, there's an entire self development space that's basically just obsessed with optimization and productivity. And there's a lot of people like they will listen to all the podcasts, they will read all of the books, they will do all of the study. But I mean, again, you have to spend a lot of time connected to yourself to figure out what your process is going to be. That's why when I tell you guys, like I will at the end of the video, when if you're watching this on YouTube and they recommend a video, I'll say, yeah, you might want to watch the video that they recommend, but make sure that you're taking time to yourself. Like, don't go down the rabbit hole too long. Like, take some time to connect with yourself. And when we're talking about systems and structures, that is why I've switched to where I don't do content. I don't put content out on the weekends. One, because with most of my audience, whether we're talking health and fitness, whether we're talking mindset, whether we're talking mental and emotional health, you guys are in that millennial range and older. So like we've been to the ends of productivity and more. And honestly, I think we're tired of it. So, it's a huge benefit for me to say, hey, take a break this weekend. Like on weekends, take a break, connect with yourself, put the phone down. But then for me personally, it allows me to do that. I think it's a really, now I will at times as I'm ramping this up, because this is a new structure that and system for me. Doing it in exactly the way that I'm doing it here, there's a lot of trial and error, but the ultimate goal for me is not to just continually put out so much content that if you ever come across it, you're overwhelmed. If you look at this, everything is very well structured and organized. Like if you see any of my content on social media, there's a way to get you to the website where everything is laid out in a way to where it's digestible. And it stays digestible because I get the feedback from you guys on what's working and what's not. I literally ask you. So, but there's a lot of work that goes into structuring and systems like this, but it's not the kind of work that a lot of people think. A lot of people think it's just do more. And let's be honest, if you're task focused and you're not focused on how this is all operating within your head, well, you're just it's mindless. And I don't think we want to be mindless in 2026. I think we want to be more connected to ourselves. I think we want to slow down. And this is going to touch every area of our life. Yes, fitness. Yes, work. But also in our personal lives too. We want to slow down. And again, it's all about the structure that you're able to keep. So that is what I have for you. So if you're listening on the podcast feed and you're brand new, welcome. If you like what you're hearing, please go ahead and subscribe. Once you've subscribed, please rate and review the podcast, and then share this episode with somebody that you think would like to listen to it. Now, if you're watching on YouTube and you're brand new, welcome. If you like what you're watching, please go ahead and subscribe, and then share the video with someone that you think might benefit from watching it. And as I said, YouTube is probably recommending a video for you to watch right now. They think you're going to enjoy this. I'm trying to point at it. I think I am. So go ahead and watch it. But again, don't spend a ton of time on the content each day. I mean, if you want to take a little bit of time each day, that's why I put stuff out 5 days a week. That ties into all of it. But watch some content, but connect to yourself and make sure that you're living a life where things are calm in your head, even when you're moving at a very deliberate, calm in your head, moving at a deliberate pace, even when to everybody else it looks like you're going at super crazy speed. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you as always for watching and listening, and I will talk to you again real soon.